given that leg length or apparent leg length discrepancy that we've been looking at and my shorter right leg, I want to try basically making my leg longer. Now I could make the apparent length of the other leg shorter by moving the cleat back on the shoe, but as you can see from this shoe I've got both cleats pretty much at the back of the adjustment. If I go any further, these bolts actually stand proud of this surface and scratch the pedal, which is not good, so I can't get them any further back on the other shoe. So I'm going to have to make the shorter leg longer effectively, and I'm going to do that by shimming the cleats. I could, you know, you can buy cleat shims, but quite frankly they're a rip-off for just a piece of plastic. So what I'm going to do, I might buy them or make them down the line on the 3D printer, but all I've done now is I've just cut up some packaging, some really thin plastic packaging. It's probably about 500 microns, half a mil, and it was a box for a travel adapter. So I've cut it up. I'm going to trace around the cleat, trace around the bolt holes, and then I can basically adjust the height in tiny increments. Now I'm going to be pretty conservative with how much height I put into the shoe or the cleat. With these bits of plastic, I've got about 5 mils worth of stack. If I want to change it, I'm probably going to start around 3. When you stack the cleats, or if you put a shim under the cleat, what you need to remember is that the front of the shoe actually does a job here. When you clip in on a Shimano type pedal, the front of the pedal hits the shoe, you push the front in, and then the pedal rotates and clips in at the back. So if you lift this surface away from the shoe, you can actually upset the kind of mechanism or the clipping in process. So I'm going to try and build the shims out here a little bit, or put something there to replicate this distance from that hook to the shoe surface. You need to kind of keep that. And a lot of the cleat shims out there in the market, they forget that, and then people report that they can't clip in properly. So I'm going to try that. If I can't do that with these, because they don't look like I've cut them big enough, then I'll just make the shims and I'll stick something else on that front bit of the shoe to deal with that. But so yeah, I'm going to take the cleat off. First of all, I'm going to mark it on the shoe obviously, so I can get it back in the right place. Take the cleat off, draw around it, and start making the shims. So I've traced around the cleat with a pen, and then when I make the templates on the plastic, I'm actually going to make them slightly smaller than the cleat, so I can still see the outline and get the cleat back in the right position. Of course, this is a bodge method, but the other more bodgy method is to put more inner soles in the shoe and stack the foot up in that way. But then you make the shoe really cramped, and you can affect your foot and the comfort. The other thing to make note of when you're changing the stack of the cleat or shimming them is that you might need to use longer bolts. Because obviously if you lift the cleat, you want to make sure the threads are still long enough to properly engage with the shoe. So if these are too short, when I shim the cleat, I might have to look for some longer bolts. Right, I've drawn around the cleat, cut it out a little bit smaller than the cleat. So it just fits on the back of the cleat like that, just so we're inside the contour of the cleat. And now I've got the perfect size template to do all the others. So I'm going to cut these all out, and then cut the holes out, and then start stacking them up. So there's the stack. All I've got to do now is mark out the holes, decide what height I want, and put it in the shoe. I think I've got about 5mm of stack here. Let's see if I can focus in. When it's squished together, what I might do is get some sandpaper and just rough these up, because the plastic is quite waxy and it's pretty slippy. So because I don't want them to slip, and I don't want the bolts to slip when the stuff is all sandwiched together, I might try and make them a bit stickier by abrading them a little bit with some sandpaper. But yeah, I reckon I've got 4 or 5mm there. That should be enough.